So what's the strangest experience you've ever had at a job interview? Have you ever had unusual questions posed, or maybe the interviewer was a little bit odd? But I'll wager you've never been asked to take a lie detector test, but that could all change. Cash-in-transit companies, pharmaceutical giants and a host of other high-risk sectors are now sending staff for polygraph tests. So how does it work? What do employers want to know? And can the system be beaten? Well, Sian Devine is Managing Director of Lie Detector Limited, which has an office in Birr in County Offaly. Sian, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
We have with us our guinea pig, Seanie Morris, presenter of Last Orders here on Midlands 103, and it's all very James Bondish.
I would like to say it's a pleasure to be here.
Seanie, if you could see him at the moment, has all sorts of contraptions wired up to him. Sian, tell us about the various devices you've plugged into Seanie.
Okay, well the polygraph instrument itself is a very small box. If you visualise, it's smaller than a box of tissues. There are a number of components that come out of the instrument. Two of them measure breathing, and they're corrugated tubes that go around the upper and lower chest areas. And we then have a blood pressure cuff, which at the moment is on Sean's left arm. And for the test, we're going to inflate that to a light pressure. So we're looking for any changes in his blood pressure rather than taking the blood pressure itself. We have two finger cuffs on his right, two of his right fingers, and they're measuring sweat gland activity. And we have a plethysmograph, which measures blood rate volume on another finger on his right hand. He's also sat on a movement mat, so that if during the test he moves, even though he's been told not to, we'll be able to pick up on it.
So if he's trying to deceive you in any way, you have all the tricks well cornered.
Yes. I mean, people may undergo countermeasures. They may do things that they think will influence the test, and, moving at certain parts in the test is sometimes what people will do, and we can pick up on that. So we'll know whether it's his body responding to the question or whether he's moving. So we'll be able to pick up on that.
Seanie, have you had any training with the Canadian Secret Service in a past life?
Shall I answer yes or no? I love to say I absolutely love your show, Will.
Yes, and it's blipping all over the place. Yes, thank you. So, in what sort of circumstances would an employer want to apply this sort of test?
Yeah, well, I suppose first of all, people shouldn't panic when they hear that this is happening, because it's really in certain industries, and in particular, the security industries may ask, as part of the final selection process, they may ask individuals to undergo polygraph tests. And the reasons that they would be doing it is to ensure that nobody's trying to infiltrate their business with criminal intent. So, we've all heard about tiger kidnappings. One area that obviously security or any cash-in-transit business has to be careful of is that, they're not taking people on who are maybe part of a criminal gang, who are going to be feeding information back and, helping to facilitate a robbery. So that's what they'd be looking for. So the questions are not going to, the questions that you could be asked on a polygraph test would not, it wouldn't be anything that the employer doesn't need to know. It would be something that's specifically related to the job. It's not an opportunity for the employer to find out gossip about you. That's really not what it's about. It's used in serious situations, and it's to stop somebody who's not entitled or not eligible for a certain position. It's to stop them getting past that sort of selection process.
But if part of the test has to assess your character, that could be subjective. And do you have to phrase the questions very carefully?
Well, we would be very careful as to the questions that we would allow, an employer, to ask in a test. And the reason for that, in the United States, employers began to abuse polygraph, and legislation was introduced in the States. And we would, there's no guidelines in Ireland, but we would follow those guidelines. So we would discuss with the employer what they're seeking to achieve from the polygraph, and we would work with them to devise the questions. And we certainly would, a subjective question would not be good for polygraph. What we're testing on is, has somebody done something in their past, or are they being honest about the reasons why they're applying for this position? Another client, the type of clients we have are people whose business involves vulnerable adults or vulnerable people or children, and they may use the polygraph to ensure that, say for example, a creche may ask a potential employee to undergo a polygraph test to ensure that they're not looking at child pornography online. So, it's very much to protect the business and to protect other employees. So this isn't something that every employer is going to be asking potential candidates to do.
And then there's the age-old joke, which maybe is true to reality, that you would have matrimonial situations. Husband is cheating on wife wants to establish it, or indeed husband wants to prove his innocence, or the other way around.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we do tests for corporate clients, but we also do them for private individuals as well. And certainly trust issues, matrimonial, relationship cheating, that's sort of a big area
Look at
for
the beads
us.
of sweat going down his forehead. Something to hide, have we, Seanie?
I didn't sign up for this.
But I have to say that most of the people that come to us are taking the test because they want to prove they haven't done something that they've been accused of doing. Somebody that has something to hide isn't going to be too enthusiastic about doing the test. So we do get some bookings that then ultimately are cancelled because either they've confessed or, they refuse to undertake the test. So most of the people that come to us want to prove they haven't done something that they've been accused of. And it could be something that's, been something that's affected their life significantly. For example, we get people who've been accused of sexually abusing another person in the past. And how do you prove that you haven't done that? There's no evidence. It's very difficult to clear your name in those circumstances. So we get people coming to us because they need to prove that they're telling the truth, and that can help in their sort of emotional or recovery, if you like, because it can have an awful effect on you if you're accused of something that you haven't done and you're unable to clear your name.
But does a lie detector test qualify as proof? How accurate is it?
The test is up to 98% accurate, and that's based on using a qualified examiner who uses the latest computerised equipment and who uses validated techniques. So it is very, very accurate, but clearly it's not infallible. There's still a small chance. But we do everything we can to help people pass the test, because if you're lying, you're not going to pass the test. But a test may last up to 3 hours. The actual being hooked up to the equipment is only a very small part of that process. We could spend an hour to an hour and a half on the pre-test part.
Is this to calibrate the machine to the individual?
It's for a number of reasons. It's to discuss the issue, first of all, and to get the questions absolutely spot on, because what you don't want is something unrelated to the issue you're testing on to interfere with it because of a poorly worded question. Because what a polygraph is doing is measuring the responses that occur. The involuntary part of your central nervous system will respond when you're being deceptive. And that is what the polygraph is measuring. So we have to make sure that your body isn't responding because the question is worded badly and something is interfering with that, question. So, we'd spend a lot of time devising the questions. We would talk through how the equipment works, what it's doing. We would then do a practice test unrelated to the real test. And that gives a person a chance to get used to wearing the equipment, because it can feel a bit intrusive, initially. So it gives people a chance to get used to that. And also, yes, we would calibrate the equipment to that specific person. So it wouldn't matter how nervous or anxious you were. That's not going to affect the test, because your body will still respond. Obviously, your baseline may be higher than it would be on a usual day, but your body will still respond when you're being deceptive.
But they say we all have a tell, whether it's looking to the right or whatever particular signal you give off. Since these are involuntary signals the machine picks up on, can it be beaten? Can an individual train themselves to overcome it?
Well, somebody can mask their body language very well with training, but what they can't do is make their body... somebody wouldn't be able to come into our office and beat the machine. Now, they could not follow our instructions. They could do things that they've been asked not to do. And if that's the case, we would spot that. Yeah, we're on the lookout for countermeasures. We're on the lookout for people undertaking maybe moving in certain point. There's certain things that people may have read up on the internet that they think if they do, it will influence the test. But you're only going to end up with an inconclusive test if you don't follow the polygraph examiner's instructions. We would see what the person is doing and we would ask them to stop. And if they continue doing that, then we're going to end up with a test that we can't make a determination whether the person's been, honest or not. So you can influence a test, but you're going to end up, like I say, with an inconclusive test that's no good to anybody. And you'd have to question why somebody was deliberately, doing things that you'd asked them not to do.
So if they were frustrating the process, then an employer will read into that and draw their own conclusion.
Exactly. I mean, most people would come to us because they need to prove that they haven't done something, and they will follow our instructions. Occasionally, you do get somebody that comes in, they have something to hide, they think they can beat the test, but they can't do that. Because what they would have to do is get their body to respond the same way when they're telling the truth as to when they're telling a lie. And you couldn't do that without a significant amount of training.
So in the normal course of things, it would take a couple of hours really to calibrate the equipment, to set it all up properly, to coach the person as to what the questions will be and to iron out the questions. So we've had to conduct a number of tests with Seanie to achieve all of that, which, don't worry, you won't have to listen to. We're going to go straight to the main test, where Sian is going to establish where Seanie went on his holidays a couple of years ago. So Sian, take it away.
Okay, so I'm going to put some pressure in your arm. Please remain still. The test is about to begin. With reference to your holiday destination a couple of years ago, was it Egypt?
No.
Was it India?
No.
Was it Australia?
No.
Was it Luxembourg?
No.
Was it Italy?
No.
Was it Japan?
No.
Was it Denmark?
No.
Please remain still. The test is about to end. Okay. Take the pressure off your arm.
I think I can see my hand deflating there.
Okay, so where did Seanie go on his holidays a few years ago? He denied every single one of those destinations. Let's see if Sian can figure out exactly where he went.
Okay, there was one in particular that your body responded to, and that was Italy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Aha.
Yeah. So it's quite a significant difference there.
Parma and Milan for a friend's wedding.
Right.
January.
Right.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
So what were the giveaways?
Well, you responded on your sweat gland activity. You responded very well there. We saw again that your blood pressure was increasing until you'd actually told a lie, and then it started to sort of go down. So you were relieved you'd got the lie out of the way. The pressure was off.
I couldn't hold it in anymore.
But actually, you responded very well on the plethysmograph as well. The
what?
The plethysmograph that's on your right
that
hand.
one there?
Now you'll see those in hospitals clipped to patients, and that's measuring blood rate volume. And you responded very well on this particular test on that as well. Now you didn't in the others, but it just shows your body sort of, you can respond differently. People are different, they respond differently. But in this test, we got a very nice response there on Italy when you told the lie.
Good stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So how do you feel after going through all of that now, Seanie?
Well, considering the questions were a little bit harmless, I don't feel as...
Nothing at stake?
No, nothing is at stake here now. Although it is a nice experience, I can feel the pressure on the arm pad, where my blood pressure, my pulse, I can feel it pulsating, where I was sometimes unconsciously thinking, is that what's going to give me away? Because I can't feel the sweat glands.
No,
and they're the ones that gave me away. So psychologically, even if I was to try and cheat the game, so to speak, I wouldn't have the control that I think I could have.
Absolutely.
You can't control what your sweat glands release and when.
Because I can't feel what they're releasing. It's so minute. The two fingers that I have exposed, they feel dry.
Yes.
But yet the two that are covered and one with the pulse counter gave me away.
So your
Yes.
body betrays you.
My body betrays me.
Absolutely, and as we mentioned earlier, it's the involuntary part of your central nervous system that responds, and you don't necessarily feel any different. In fact, you won't. And people often say after the test, "Well, I didn't feel any different. I thought I tricked it," but your body still responds, and that's what the equipment is picking up on.
And this equipment is very expensive, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Very, very
it
expensive.
is. And without the proper training, it's no good to anybody.
So
to
my
be
wife
perfectly
can't
honest.
get one for Christmas or anything.
No, but she could talk to me.
And is it an expensive process if Seanie's wife is concerned that he's playing around?
Well,
Which, for the record, he isn't.
Well, we don't think he is, do we? No, I'm sure he's not. We would charge €495 for a single test for a private individual. Now, that has come down significantly since we began to offer this service in Ireland, whereas previously you may have to pay between €1,200 and €2,000 for somebody to come over from the UK. So it is, more accessible now and more flexible than it was historically. Obviously, if we were doing more than one test, we would offer, big discounts on subsequent tests.
The website is liedetector.ie. Sian Devine, Managing Director of Lie Detector Limited. Thank you very much for coming into us. And Seanie, thank you for being our guinea pig.
I wish I could say it was a pleasure.
And if you look at facebook.com, look up the Midlands Today Show, a video of what you've just heard can be viewed.